Hello everyone and welcome to What Culture. I'm Josh, joined today by Ewan Patterson because out of nowhere, seemingly, the Black Widow trailer has dropped. And I watched it this morning and I have weirdly a lot of things to say about this trailer because I was wondering whether this movie was, necessary, especially after Avengers Endgame, because for me, that sort of tied off the Infinity Saga in such a satisfying way that I worried Ewan. I know that is...
You agonised? You tossed and toiled?
I tossed and turned. I was up at night in cold sweats, worried about the future of the MCU, and then I watched this 2-minute teaser trailer, and yet I'm back on board. What do you think?
It's interesting. It's only just dawned on me this morning how great the cast is, and I was kind of a little bit delirious when I watched it as soon as I got up because it's like 7:55. Just like why?
Yep.
Why? That's a bit. Usually 1 o'clock's the sweet spot, and they just thought they'd drop it over here. I mean, who's awake at this time?
There's too many trailers this week, so I think they just decided to roll it out as a little
to be
surprise
fair,
gift.
Sai did point out to me as well that the James Bond trailer comes out this week, so they're getting a little bit ahead of the competition. But yeah, I thought it was really cool. Again, it just dawned on me, even though the knowledge has been there for like ages, but like the fact that this cast is so good. We obviously got ScarJo, we've got Florence Pugh, we've got Rachel Weisz and David Harbour, and that is just a great ensemble cast. Just those characters, I love that, and so many nods and callbacks to the old Widow comics in this as well. Obviously, you got Red Guardian, who is the Soviet-era Captain America for the Russian equivalent. Obviously,
I just read that this morning, which blew my mind.
Yes, and then also you've got the White Widow suit, which is a pretty cool callback to as well the comics. Which is, I'm really here for this. I didn't think that I was. It's weird to me because I feel as though it isn't as urgent as all the other MCU films. It's a little bit of an awkward film in the sense that you got it set in between Civil War and Infinity War for the kind of contemporary stuff. Obviously, you got loads of flashback material there as well. I mean, you can see a young Everett Ross at one point in the trailer. So I'm curious to see how the timeline's going to all come together.
Me too. I think it's an interesting part of this trailer, and what makes me so fascinated by the movie in general is that if you check out like the wider cast list, there are links to the MCU that we haven't seen in the flesh yet. We know that certain characters are going to be in it. There are rumors that Tony Stark is going to be back for the movie, but the film doesn't really rely on its connections to that wider MCU story to sell like the film. It flashes back to the scenes from Age of Ultron where Natasha is sort of talking about her past and that sort of untold story. But this seems very character focused in a way that I am really looking forward to. I think that for as good as the recent Marvel movies are, they really relied on that excellent ensemble. But after we've had Avengers Endgame, I think it's a cool idea to go back small and focus on someone as essential as Black Widow, even though I do agree that, like you said, it might not necessarily seem quite as urgent, not only because it's coming after Endgame, but also because, it's sort of set after the events of Civil War. At least, that's what we know so far. It might branch into something else.
Yeah, I mean, everyone was asking for this film to come out like 10 years ago, so Disney are a little bit late to the party here. But that still doesn't mean we're not, pleased to have it. I think Black Widow definitely deserved to have a film, and the fact that we're finally getting it is a good thing. And I think anything that's tonally similar towards The Winter Soldier is really going to pique my interest because I absolutely adore The Winter Soldier. I think it's my favorite. And I always kind of get torn about what MCU film is my favorite, but I think if I was to go with them, it probably would be The Winter Soldier, just because I love a kind of blend of 70s paranoia with, the classic espionage and kind of that Bourne influence as well. Whereas this one's slightly more Bondy, I thought. There's an extravagance to it going on. I think the fight scene between Widow and Yelena Belova, who we'll get to soon, I think that's very much of the Bourne kind of Atomic Blonde John Wick mold. But I thought there was some really grand set pieces going on here, and the ensemble spy nature more to me speaks of like a classic Bond caper more so than or maybe a 90s Bond caper more so than a.
That's interesting because I thought the same thing when I saw that sort of fight scene in the apartment block. That it looked very Bourne. The way it was sort of shot, the kind of the almost grittiness of it reminded me very much of sort of like that Jason Bourne sort of era of spy action films. But then that is juxtaposed with those grand set pieces you see towards the end where Widow's falling through the sky in an action scene that I never expected her to be in, and yet it kind of took my breath away. That might sound stupid because we've seen so many characters in similar positions, and yet it was something that I didn't expect to see, maybe especially in the trailer. And I thought that was a cool sort of addition to put in there, because this very much could have just been a sort of a down-to-earth, gritty kind of Bourne-esque action film, but it seems like it's blending that with sort of the regular superhero mold, and I think by the looks of this trailer, it's doing it quite well.
I'm getting more excited the more I talk about it, and I think that's because it's blending these. The spy genre has been such a big thing with Marvel Comics for ages. You had Jim Steranko's Nick Fury comics in the '60s, which really kind of just laid the groundwork for all this, and then you have obviously Black Widow has such a rich comics history as well, and seeing those two genres collide on the screen again after Civil War and Winter Soldier, it's just great. And I think without those other superheroes present, it just goes to show just how grand this mythos is, and that's particularly cool. I love the introduction of Yelena Belova as well, who is kind of doing what I think Marvel are doing with the character. In the comics, she is another Black Widow, but she's probably a little bit, I'd probably say more unstable than Natasha. She's definitely more of an anti-hero than a straight out. Well, I mean, I guess Black Widow is an anti-hero as well, but I guess she's maybe more of an anti-villain. She has kind of that back and forth over which side she's really on. She temporarily forms an alliance with Black Widow, but more often than not, kind of leans towards the evil route. And I do think that if this trailer is anything to go by, I think they're probably leading her to be more of a heroic figure this time around, which I think is quite interesting.
And that, just so I don't look like an idiot in the comments, that's Florence Pugh's character.
Yes,
yeah. I think the thing that they're sort of... What I liked about this trailer is that it doesn't necessarily show you like an out-and-out villain. We know that apparently Taskmaster is in the movie. I don't think we get to see him in the trailer. Oh, they are, yeah. But I don't think we get to see them like in the actual trailer itself. We don't really know like who like the villain is. It's more about, like you said, like the espionage and the sort of mystery elements of this team and getting this team back together. And obviously, Widow's past. I think that it sells you on that. It does what it needs to do, and it sells you on this sort of new team. I wasn't watching this trailer pining for Natasha to team up with Hawkeye or anyone like that. I was interested in who these people are, in their relationship with each other, and it does help, like you said, that you've just got this excellent sort of cast like around you. For me, Florence Pugh has been the MVP of 2019. Every movie that she's been in has been absolutely awesome, and she is an absolutely excellent actor. And I just want to see those two people bounce off each other.
Yeah, I think that you mentioned the ensemble nature of it all, it kind of reminds me a little bit more of the more recent Mission Impossibles as well, in a way, I guess.
Yes.
Taskmaster is a really important character to talk about because in the comics, they basically, their real name is Tony Masters, which was not invented by Andy Murray. That is literally Tony Masters is their actual name, and they basically have the ability to adapt and fight. So if you come at them with a certain move style, say Josh, you're going to flail your arms about at them.
It's what I do,
They'd be able to turn that move back against you, and you'd be like, oh no, my flailing arm attack, what the hell?
Back on me.
So that's why in the trailer you have that brief shot of them using what looks to be a mimic of Hawkeye's bow. And we've seen in concept art as well that they've been using Captain America's shield. So this is interesting. This implies that they're aware of the Avengers at least. Obviously, maybe we'll have a different thing where it reveals that during the time period between the first Avengers and Age of Ultron, Taskmaster fought them and got all their fighting styles. We don't know that yet. I thought that brief shot of them using Hawkeye's bow was pretty cool.
That is an interesting idea because I thought that the action choreography in this, even though we got just a brief glimpse of it, looked quite, cool. It sort of had that Winter Soldier vibe where it was in your face and it was sort of, frenetic, but it was clear enough that you could appreciate the choreography on show and appreciate sort of the fight scenes. And if that sort of links in with the villain's, habit of mimicking other people's moves, that could make for some like genuinely visually interesting action sequences that don't have to rely on CGI or, anything like that, or just filling the screen with explosions and lasers. As much as I like explosions and lasers, I think it's interesting that you mentioned Mission Impossible, because I was just, doing some research on this movie before I came in, and it actually has the same cinematographer as Mission Impossible
that's
and
really
Fallout.
cool. Yeah.
And I was like, that makes a lot of sense. I can totally see what they're going for.
That's a great steal by Marvel.
Yeah, by like hiring the people that they've hired. Director Kate Shortland, obviously. They did the Berlin Syndrome before this, which is a weird as all hell movie, but you can sort of see those influences, strangely enough, in this trailer, especially in the way the film looks and the sort of, just kind of, it had a weirdly, to me at least, sort of eerie off feel to it.
The soundtrack really helped. It reminded me very much of, I've completely forgotten the fella who did the Winter Soldier soundtrack, but it reminded me a lot of that, that kind of when the Winter Soldier theme was coming on, that kind of distorted noise.
Yeah.
It really, there's a science to it. I know it operates on a certain decibel level that really like kind of unnerves folks, and it definitely unnerves me. I love that. It's so like, it's weird how the music really kind of complemented this trailer. I thought it was a really cool thing, and definitely if this is going to be what it's like for the entire film, then that's a really good kind of like unique soundtrack and vibe to gun for.
Yeah, 100%. I think obviously, there's a lot being said about the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a whole not having great scores, and I do think that has started to change in the last few years. We've got these really interesting, visual motifs that have carried through and then sort of come together in the ensemble films. But yeah, that for me was the most standout part of the trailer, just the way that music sort sort of, you know, resonated with you and made you feel and sort of supported the themes of the film. I imagine that about that, like, sort of, you know, like the mystery and the not being able to trust anything and having the rug pulled out from under you. And like you said, it does sort of, I don't know, echo back to the Winter Soldier and that kind of similar strand of storytelling and, you know, setting and stuff.
The really cool thing about this trailer as well is that I feel as though, even though you could probably criticize it for say, well, we've not really learned any more plot details than what we already knew already, I still think there's not much about this film that we really know. We know obviously that Natasha goes back to Russia and that, you know, she meets her old team with Red Guardian and Rachel Weisz's character, who most assume is probably going to turn out to be Taskmaster in this film.
Right.
And you've obviously got Yelena as well. We don't know exactly the specific beats of what's going on here. We have the callbacks to the Red Room, so then it's going to come back from there. I think it's probably taken inspirations from the Mark Waid, Chris Samney comic from a few years ago. But specifically talking, we don't really have any, you know, I feel as though this was a great trailer because I can't place the continuity of the film anywhere. That's pretty handy, because usually the frustrating thing is when you get these trailers, you're just waiting for bits of the trailer to appear in the film so you know where it's going to happen and what's going to happen next. I still feel as though there was enough here, but not too much.
I think that's what they needed to achieve as well, because, you know, whether it was justified or not, I think a lot of people might have gone into this movie thinking that, you know, like we said at the very beginning, like they can guess everything that's going to happen. It's a prequel, it's about a character who's no longer around anymore. Like, we know enough about their backstory perhaps to piece it together, but then this trailer comes out and it has you sort of guessing, it has you thinking about what mysteries it might hold. It ultimately just gets you interested, I think, in a movie that you might not have had much belief in beforehand, despite the great cast and the great crew and everyone on board, and of course it being Marvel's movie. But I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Have you watched the trailer yet? Are you excited for Black Widow? Has this done enough to win you over to their side? Please let us know down in the comments. And as always, you can find me at Josh Broon over on Twitter.com. You can find Ewan at
Ewan Ruins Things.
You've been watching What Culture, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.